Joey and Holly are the founders of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners. They're a married couple living in southeastern Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee. They make all kinds of videos on YouTube about how to grow your own food organically, reusing found items or items you may just throw away, what to do with the food you grow, home canning, and simple home living. They've been on a lot of different television programs locally in the Milwaukee area. They enjoy speaking and giving presentation at garden expos throughout the Midwest. Holly is also an award-winning home canner with a handful of ribbons from the Wisconsin State Fair, including a Best of Show award for her home canning talents. If you go out to YouTube and look up the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, you'll find all their programs on YouTube, and they've just got some amazing stuff. So without any further delay, let's get them on the line. Joey and Holly, I think we got our technical issues fixed. Welcome to K-Talk and the Fringe Radio Show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We Comcast. Oh, okay, I won't say I did though. Comcast has been out here playing around with the lines, and we've had some issues. It's an honor to have you back on the show again. We had you on last year. We got a ton of people that requested you to be back on. Are you guys in the depths of gardening already?
Yes, we are. We're planting a lot of things, probably later than maybe what we should because of the cool weather we had the last couple of weeks. So we always face that in the spring, playing a gamble game of when to plant it. Next week's supposed to be cold. Should I plant it now or wait? And that's kind of where we took the chance today. We backed off on broccoli, or on kale and Brussels sprouts, and focused solely on potatoes because now is the time to get those in the ground when that soil temperature reaches 50 degrees.
How safe can we be as far as putting stuff in? Now, here in Utah, we've been really lucky in that we've had some really, really beautiful weather. I mean, today was 81. We're going to stay in the mid-70s. I mean, unless we have something really fluky happening, our nights are going to probably, maybe the lowest we'll see is low 40s. We could see high 30s. Are we in good enough shape at those temperatures to start getting plants in the ground right now?
Yeah, your cool weather crops, your broccoli, cauliflower, kale, radishes, bok choy, pak choy, cilantro, all of those, and even your potatoes are all safe to go in the ground. You want to wait until you get those night temperatures up in those upper 50s to low 60s before you start thinking about tomatoes, peppers, the summer stuff.
What about beans, Joey?
Beans, you're looking at 55 degrees soil temperature at night, and you don't want to put those in too early. Those beans love a lot of heat in the day and a lot of moisture in the soil, so hold off on those until you put those tomatoes in the ground. Then you're okay to go with the beans.
Okay. Now, Sissy writes in, says, guys, I love to plant pumpkins and watermelons. It seems like I always get them in the ground too late. Is it too early to put watermelon or pumpkins in the ground yet?
They like watermelon. Melon's like a cell temperature of about 60 degrees.
Now, what she can do to accelerate the time that the plants grow is going to start inside in a container, single seed per container, 16-ounce solo cup or a larger container, about 3 weeks before she would typically put them out when it's safe in the area to put them out, and that way you've got a 3-week jump on the deal, and you can get them in the ground. You're going to have to acclimate them, or what's called hardening off, take them out a little bit each day until they get acclimated to the actual ambient outdoor temperature. But by starting them indoors, one seed per container or per pot, you're going to be able to get that 3 to 4 week jump on the deal.
Gotcha. So we're still kind of early in the growing season then, huh?
Yeah, we are. Now, me and Holly and myself, we garden 365, so it is just a transition of getting the stuff from the grow room that we typically try to grow over the winter and switching gears and focusing on, okay, now we got to start seeds for outdoor planting at X date here and X date there. And it becomes a massive dry erase board chart game for us to figure out when to go and what to do and how many to put out.
Gotcha. Let me ask you guys. Last year was really our first year, Carol and I's first year to put a good sized garden in. we prepared the soil. We put a lot of we made a nice area, probably about 8 by now nothing the size of your garden, but we ended up coming up with about an 8 by 20 foot area that we put a lot of peat moss and soil, and on the bottom we did raised beds. On the bottom we used a lot of pine needles and stuff, and we really put a good good quality materials down, and we spent a lot of money, I have to say, but our results were really terrible. I don't know. One thing I did that I think I'm going to try this year, and I think maybe other people do, I think we tried to grow a little too much variety. We tried onions and carrots and stuff, and things kind of got crowded in and just didn't produce anything for us.
Right. Now, that can be a major contributing factor is the overpopulation of plants in a small area, and we're no different. We look at an area going, well, we should only put 8 tomato plants in this area, but I think we can put 10 or 12, and the end result is they overcrowd themselves. It's poor yielding of the plants, and the diseases increase your odds of getting diseases when you do have those tight quarters, because now a disease, instead of having to try to jump 2 foot, has only 6 inches to transfer from one plant to the next.
Gotcha. Yeah, we got, like, our beans as an example, Joey. We put in bush beans, and we got beautiful foliage. Huge, big plants, but they produced just literally a couple handfuls of beans.
Now, that could be a nutrient issue. What you're describing could be an excessive amount of nitrogen in the soil, which will allow your plant to grow beautiful foliage, but when it comes to fruit production, it does very, very little in fruit production because of that high nitrogen level in the soil.
Okay. What can I do what can we do, or what can people do to change that? Well, I guess I should say, first of all, how can we test? Because again, it's the cost of the plants is one thing and the seed is one thing, but it's the time, the watering, and then to go many months and just yield nothing. What's a good way to try to correct the soil?
Well, if you want to get a professional opinion, you could either send in for a soil test.
Okay.
A lot of university extensions will have that option for you, and it's never really much more than $10. So that's an option, is to get a soil test. And that way you'll have an idea of kind of where you are in regards to nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and even, I believe, acidity level.
Right.
As well.
With that soil test, they will break it down to tell you what you need to add, what you don't need to add, suggestions on what you could grow to change the levels in the soil without having to add an abundance of fertilizer or supplements to the soil.
Is there anything I can put in that you would suggest? I can do that. Is there anything that we can do, though? Can we bring in some fresh topsoil, or what would you suggest to correct the problem?
You can bring in some fresh topsoil to incorporate it in the current soil in the bed. You could also grow plants that are strictly green-loving plants, such as herbs, Swiss chard, spinach, lettuce, anything that's going to that's a green, that's not going to produce a fruit or a vegetable. That's strictly going to be for the greens that you eat, to try to suck some of that excess nitrogen out of that soil. Gotcha.
What other, and the other thing that we had happen here, guys, and I think I mentioned it to you in a Facebook post, and I don't know what I could do to get around that, but something that was a huge setback for us in July, we had beautiful tomato plants. Our plants were just doing unbelievable, and we had a hailstorm that came through that dumped about 3 inches of hail, and that literally about destroyed the whole garden. Is there anything you can do, or is that just Mother Nature teaching me a lesson?
You could go to the farmer's market.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, thanks. A couple $100. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Really, there's not much you can do at that point. Tomatoes do not like the cold. So if the hail sat there,
Well, and the hail just pelted the plants to no end.
Yeah. So at that point, it's unfortunate, and hopefully it doesn't happen again this year. If you knew that there was hail coming, that maybe you could try to protect them somehow. But sometimes stuff like that happens. Like we had our whole crop taken up by the tomato hornworm, which sometimes you can't do anything about either. So it happens. It happens to all of us where there's some sort of natural situation that unfortunately will occur to a crop or two or whatever.
Well, and like with the hail, what it seemed to do is, I mean, the pellets, of course, did a lot of damage, but I think what really hurt everything is I think it froze everything. I mean, everything, the plants that weren't damaged by the hail, the leaves within a day or two turned white. It looked like everything went through the deep freeze. Matter of fact, right after the hailstorm, I got out there with the hose, and tried to sprinkle and get the hail. This was in the middle of summer, try to get the hail to melt, but I think it was just too late. I think it literally like froze everything.
Mm-hmm. That's very possible. So then at that point, you have to decide what you want to do. As long as, like I said, usually when something like that happens, it just destroys one crop. Unfortunately, when it's tomatoes, that is never fun. But or when it's something that you really like a lot of. And then if you want to can tomatoes or something, sometimes you have to look into other options.
Right.
Well,
right.
The nice thing about it, though, is that once you get to, once you get to end of August, sometimes you can find some really nice deals at the farmer's market.
Yeah. We did some of the plants that did survive. All our jalapeno plants made it through without a problem. The cucumbers, we had beautiful cucumbers, just wiped them right out. Actually, even the cucumbers on the plants, they were I think they were called bush pickles. They were the small ones. I mean, the hail just split them open. It was like getting hit with rocks.
Wow.
So as far as beans go, if the temperatures rise here a little bit, Joey, if I get my bush beans in, let's say in the next couple of weeks, it seemed like even though I got a low turnout of a yield, it took all summer. Are beans a slow grower, or what can I plant that can produce something to eat quicker?
Radishes.
Okay.
Radishes are cooler. They're crop.
Oh, yeah.
Beans will typically take, bush beans in your situation, should take 40 to 60 days to reach maturity, and then once the maturity is reached, they will produce beans for 2 to 3 weeks, and then that plant will be done growing, and that's why we encourage succession growing. You plant 2 weeks from now, for example, and then 2 weeks after that, you plant another couple rows, so you have a duration of beans all through the summer. When it comes to fast-growing vegetables in the summer months, there really is not a number one go-to when it comes to that question. Like Holly said, in the spring, you look at radishes, you're looking at 28 days, and lettuce is 50 days. But really, there's not a fast-growing plant for summer growing. It takes the duration of pretty much the whole summer.
Yeah. How about suggestions for watermelon? Our watermelon, we had, again, I attribute the hailstorm to doing a lot of damage. We did get 2 melons, but they were pretty doggone small, and I didn't get the melons in until probably the first week of June. Maybe I was just too late in getting them in. What do you suggest for really good watermelon growth?
Well, watermelons will take, based on your variety, 85 to 115 days. And getting them in early, starting them indoors, even if you need to, several weeks prior to putting them out, they want a lot of water and they like a lot of heat. And they need a lot of good pollination from bees or by humans if you have to go in there and hand pollinate. There's a theory in the gardening world related to vine crops such as watermelon, cucumbers, pumpkins, that we all understand that the plant puts out male flowers first. That's just the way it normally has done since the beginning of time. What the theory is that the plant puts out those male flowers to test for possible pollinations in the area. If the plant notices there's a lot of bees or a lot of pollinators active in those flowers, it will put on an abundance of female flowers to compensate for those pollinators. So the theory is, once we see those male flowers that come out first, to go in there with just your finger and tap every single one of them to stimulate that plant to go, hey, there's a lot of pollinators here. I've got to put out a lot of female flowers to compensate for all those pollinators. And then you can go in there with a paintbrush or a Q-tip and hand pollinate the male flower to the female flower to encourage more possible fruit at the end of the season.
And that's like when you talk about touching it, like when you touch that flower, you'll see that puff of usually yellow go flying all over. Is that's what you do? Just touch it to get it to burst a little bit?
Right. And then if for the initial time, if you're going to pollinate, you want to take a paintbrush to acquire some of that powder from the male flower and then rub it into the female flower, which the female flower you'll see behind the flower immediately. There's going to be a shape of the cucumber or pumpkin or watermelon, whatever it is. That's what you want to do when you hand pollinate. It's a terrible, painful process, but because of the bee situation we have, that is one alternative that we have to possibly practice in order to get what we want to eat in the garden.
Gotcha. Well, one thing I did learn from you guys, especially you, Joey, is when I watch, I watch all your videos. I encourage my listeners to too. We got you get a lot of great emails, a lot of people watching your stuff. One thing I know that you do is you're very methodical about planting and seeds and stuff. And I kind of it's kind of like when you a lot of people think you throw a lot of extra soap in and you get a cleaner wash. And one thing I did learn is I got a little sloppy and said, I got a whole packet of seeds and just threw the seeds all over the place. And granted, I got plants, but I look like my radishes looked like they were grown in Chernobyl. I think they were so crowded together, they took every crazy shape in the world. So a big lesson I learned is you don't need to throw extra seeds in because it's not going to benefit. It's just going to hurt.
Right. Take your time and space them properly so everybody has an equal opportunity to grab the nutrients they need in the soil and they don't crowd each other out. And it's just like a bunch of people crowded in an elevator. It's much less comfortable in an elevator with 27 people than it is with 5 people. So space is required in the garden as well as in everyday life for all of us.
Gotcha. What do you? What time? Kim writes in, says, Joey, Holly, when can I go ahead and put my sugar snap peas in? When's a good time to get those going?
Right now. You want to get those in before. Well, you want to do it as soon as possible because as the days start to get longer, they're gonna want to not grow or bolt. So one thing you want to do is you want to get them done pretty much as soon as possible.
These will take 70 days to reach maturity, so if you can get them in early, and by pre-soaking them, let's say she's going to plant them tomorrow. If she can get them in a mason jar covered with water and pre-soak them for 15, 12, 24 hours, you're going to increase the germination, one, by hydrating them, and two, you're going to increase the speed of germination by 3 to 5 days because they're hydrated prior to going into the ground.
Gotcha. So kind of soften them up a little bit.
Right, and give them a jump start, and then once they're in the ground, then they're already hydrated. They're not sitting in the ground trying to acquire the adequate moisture in order to stimulate the internal workings of that seed to start growing.
Now, do those peas, those snow peas, guys, do they like a lot of sun, or is it good to get them in a nice warm place with a lot of sun?
They can, and they can also tolerate a little bit of shade. Most vegetables like 8+ hours of sun. We've got our peas in a partial shade, which means it's grabbing about 6 to 7 hours of sun. So peas can handle a little bit of shade, and also you can also plant them later on in the fall. You can get a double crop out of them if it doesn't turn off bitterly cold. They can handle a light freeze and a frost, but not prolonged.
Gotcha. What about, I know you guys are not, I know last time I had you on, I brought up Miracle Grow, and I know you guys are not big fans of that. What do you suggest for our listeners? What is a good fertilizer to use or a good additive maybe to their garden that'll give them good results And like you said, with the Miracle Grow, it tends to make the plant very dependent on that. The plant may look good, but it may not produce. What do you suggest as far as giving our plants some help?
So there's this stuff called manure tea, and you just go to manuretea.com, and it's very cost effective. And what it is that you get it's called a tea bag. And no, you don't drink it. You feed it to your plants. And what you do with the tea bag is you put it in a 3 to 5 gallon bucket with water for 24 hours. That's all you do. Nothing fancy. You just put in the water. And then it has a nice, good soil fertilizer, soil enhancer. It's a compost tea. And the woman who makes this stuff, well, she doesn't really make it. Her cows do. Her cows are all organic, grass-fed. They are not fed any hormones or antibiotics or anything like that. So these cows are very happy cows, and therefore she takes, dries the manure, and then at that point she puts them in the tea bags, and then she sends them out. And it's very cost-effective. You get 3 bags. Is it $10?
I forget what it is. But anyway, the tea bags it can be used multiple times. It's not a one-time use, but the first brew is always darker than the second, third, fourth, fifth, but the nutrients is still there.
Right, and you can use this on your vegetables, your flowers, your herbs, whatever you have. And you just, just water it in. You don't have to measure anything, and that way your plants won't become dependent, but they'll be healthy because the stuff is like magic.
Yeah. Now, if the listeners want to go with a traditional granular fertilizer, there's a company from Winchester, Ohio called Winchester Gardens, and they have started in the last 3 years a line of fertilizer, the Select Organic Fertilizer, and it's all derived from organic materials. And they specifically started this line because they listened to their customers and said, we know you do synthetics, but we want an organic fertilizer that we can use in our vegetable gardens, and that is a very cost-effective way to go as well, and they'll ship all over the United States. And you might even have it in your local garden center. You can go to our website and find more information about that at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
Gotcha. Now, you guys are doing a podcast. I've been watching those. You want to tell our listeners about that and when they can tune in, and can they call in or email in?
Yeah, they can definitely email us. We have them bi-monthly, and they're about less than an hour long, and we always have a guest, and then we just talk about, current garden stuff or whatever, some fun topic. And you can find them all on our website at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. And if you have any questions, we have on the right-hand side, there's a big red button that says Contact Us. And that way, if you have any questions, you can email us there. And we usually get back to you within a day or two.
Yeah, it's the first and third Thursday of each month, and the second and fourth Thursday they run on YouTube. But the first and third Thursday, you can catch them on our website. They're downloadable from Stitcher, from iTunes, from Podomatic, and we talk about problems that coming up show. We're going to talk about powdery mildew, vertical gardening, and perennials in your garden, and we're also going to have one of the representatives from Winchester Garden on the program as we talk about the difference between synthetic and organic fertilizer. So that'll be an interesting conversation we'll have. But it's always it brings a connection to the listeners of another way that they can acquire information and not have to sit in front of a video. They can download it, play it in their car, on their walks, wherever, but it's another way that they can learn more about growing a little bit more of what they eat.
Gotcha. Another listener wrote in for you guys. This is Joey and Holly. Bob writes in, says, Joey and Holly, snails are consuming everything in my garden. What can I do? Help.
Well, we really don't have that problem, but and I don't think we've had anybody ask us that either. So what Bob can do is he can. But we're more than happy to get some information for him. We do have, friends in the gardening world, and then we also will, have we will do research for people if they need help or ask, somebody. So if Bob wants to send us a message so we can get back to him, that'd be great because and maybe kind of if he knows what kind of snails they are. Like I said, it's not something we deal with a lot.
Yeah,
if he doesn't want to message us, he can contact his local university extension. And the good thing about the local university extension is that they are specific to where you live. So that way, if it's a known problem or whatever, they can definitely help you.
Yeah, I know. We had the same problem. What we ended up doing was taking old. We took yogurt cups, the big yogurt cups, cut a hole in them, and put some beer in the bottom of them, and they would climb into the cup, and then they can't get back out. And we just chuck them and wash them out and put them back in again. But we had the same problem in our garden. I know one of the garden center recommended like a snail and slug bait. But all I can tell you is when I bought it, when I opened up that container, it smelled like a chemical factory. I just did not want to put that around my plants.
Right, and also if you're dealing with snails, if you can put, let's say, eggshells or possible sand around each plant, the snails don't like that abrasive texture on the bottom of their feet or their slide, whatever the bottom of the snail, and that can also deter them from eating some of the plants in the garden. And the beer thing will work. You just want to make sure you use your neighbor's beer and not yours.
That's true. Yeah, that was a problem we had. Is they just started. We had a matter of fact, our before the hailstorm came, we got some great the small bush pickles, the small cucumbers. Those things would climb on those cucumbers, and they would literally just start destroying them. Another problem we have, and I don't know what you would recommend for this, and others have sent the same thing in: birds. Birds eating strawberries and birds destroying the fruit. What do you do for birds?
A few things you can do, and I actually saw this on Pinterest, is you can take stones and paint them red like strawberries, and then the birds will peck them, and then they'll get pissed because they peck their little beaks. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is you can put a protective cover over your strawberry patch, not just around but over, and that will prevent them from coming to you.
One way you can also detour birds from pecking holes in, let's say, tomato plants is take plastic ornaments, Christmas ornaments that are red, and about 2 or 3 or even a month before they begin, you normally get red tomatoes, hang those Christmas ornaments, one on every other plant or one on a couple of, and the birds will come in and begin to peck those red Christmas ornaments and realize that's not a tomato, and they'll tell their other bird friends, and they don't come back for the most part. So that's another way to try to deter those birds from getting in and destroying your garden.
That's a good idea. Yeah, if they go over there and they see it and they figure they're not going to get anything, hopefully that'll keep them away.
Right.
Because you can spend so much. The money, of course, is in the seed. You got to buy the plants and stuff, but it's, the money is in all the time, in the watering and the care and the weeding and stuff. And like I said, for us, it was heartbreaking when that hailstorm came. Matter of fact, we had such a hot summer last year. We were in the garden and we saw this huge dark cloud coming over, and Carol said, well, we don't have to worry about water, and we're going to get some really, really good rain. And, well, it rained and then turned to ice and it wiped it out. What do you guys, now I know one thing watching your videos, you guys capture rainwater. Is that another good thing for people to do, use the rainwater?
Almost definitely. It's great for your garden. You're getting the stuff that's coming out of the sky. It's going to save you on your water bill, and it's pretty simple to do. So, and it's healthier. So if you have, especially if you have city water that may have chlorine in it, chlorine, unfortunately, does kill a lot of the microorganisms in your soil. So,
by taking municipal water, city water, and watering your plants, it doesn't kill all of them, but it does greatly reduce the numbers of microorganisms that you're working so hard building the soil up and adding organic material to increase those microorganisms to get the plants to grow better. So, by capturing rainwater, that is one way you can greatly enhance the life of the soil by building the microbes up and not killing them off with chlorine. If you don't have rainwater catching capabilities, you can use city water, but you want to let it set in a bucket for 24 hours. Chlorine is a gas, and it will evaporate out of the water. Then it is safer to use on your plants than fresh right out of the tap city water.
Gotcha. And now you guys recommend the filter too, correct?
Yeah, that hose on water filter by Body, Mind, and Soil, and you can find that on our website too. We have a little link there, and you get free shipping if you order through our website. And it just goes around the end of your hose, and it's going to remove all that bad stuff, and then you'll have the pure water to keep the healthy microorganisms in your soil.
And the nice thing about that filter versus other filters, it has brass fittings, so you can't over-tighten it and crack the fittings on the end. So
Gotcha.
That's one big benefit that they have versus other companies. And they have a replaceable insert filter, and it's good for 25,000 gallons, which if that doesn't register how much that would be, that's about 8,000 minutes, or an average of 1 hour of watering a week for 26 weeks. That's like 5.5 years before you even need to think about replacing the filter inside of it.
Gotcha. We've got to wrap up pretty quick, guys, and again, my apologies for the technical mix-up. We'll have to get you back on again in the summer here to see how things are going, but what's your prediction for the year? Do you think it seemed like last year, again, kind of what I heard in general, a lot of people weren't happy with their garden. I don't know how well yours did, but what's your prediction for this year? You think this is going to be a little better year and things may be a little more successful?
We think so. We've kind of combated a lot of problems in the past couple of years. The Farmer's Almanac, so we're going to have a hot, wet summer. So hopefully that is true, and hopefully that means that we'll get our nice, happy tomato plants, and a lot of the warmer weather crops that didn't do so well last year will do better this year.
And if you've gardened for any amount of time, and you know this just like we do, if you don't learn from the previous year what you did wrong and how to fix it, you probably shouldn't be gardening.
Yep, I agree, because it's a disappointment, but we learned a lot, like, again, too many seeds, too close together, little things like that could have made a big difference. Hey, guys, I want to thank you for staying up late and being here with us. It's always an honor, and I thank you for all you do in your videos. They've helped us out and a lot of our listeners out, and we would love to get you back on in the summer and kind of see how things are going.
Very much so. We'd like to come on as well.
Okay, and I'll be looking forward to your next podcast. And again, thanks for all that you do.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, take care, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.